So I reckon let's kick it off with what we were talking about when we jumped the gun. Me, Jake, and Brian. We're talking about high bar versus low bar. If anybody has got anything to say about the differences of squat, even.
You're jumping all the way to high bar versus
Yeah,
low
well,
bar.
we started it off and
In his defense, I was the one that started it.
Okay.
I was the one that started it.
Because I'm all prepped to be like, okay, what are we looking for before we can take the box away? And you guys are like, all right, so you're PR'd on your low bar squat, and you need to see about moving to high. Like,
I mean, if you ask me, I prefer one working out, and I'm not sure if any clients I might get once I get certified will feel the same, but a good portion of my friends, like I've created programs for one of my friends who's in the Air Force, right? Ran him through everything. We've met up and did the whole lift and everything. And when it came to squat day, he agrees with me. Doing it on the shoulder, high bar style is a lot better because it gives you a sense of like stability as opposed to low bar where, you have that risk of either A, blowing your back out. According to him, that's what he says. Or B, just generally not feeling the tension that you'd be looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I'm not sure. Like I was saying, I don't know the specific differences, but I've always heard that. I mean, it makes sense to me that the lever length will be less when it's low bar. So wouldn't it be easier on your back? And also, wouldn't you be able to be slightly stronger? But yeah, admittedly, I don't know that much. Yeah, what do you guys reckon?
You should be able to be stronger. Yeah, because of the shorter lever there, for sure.
Yeah.
So you've got to look at, in my understanding, you've got to look at proportion of torso to leg, and then also the length of the femur. So it's sort of shin to shorter femur, longer torso versus shorter torso, longer femur. And I haven't had to get super technical, but I believe the individual with the longer limbs needs a lower bar. You're gonna be able to, with low bar squat with longer limbs, you're gonna be able to get it over your center. So it's sort of like the answer is depending on your client.
Yeah. So actually, sorry to keep this still really specific. What do you guys reckon about bar position? So I've always taught the bar position moves vertically and it's over the middle of your foot. Do you guys agree with that? Do you have any issues with that? That's one of my sacred ones.
If you're looking at it from the side?
Yeah.
When looking at it from the side, sorry, yeah. So
how far, I do have an answer, but I want to answer the question. How far are you going to let their knees go past their toes to keep that position?
I mean, I generally look at like shin parallel with back, but then that can result in shins going really far. I mean, I don't stop people if their knees are going over their shins. And I haven't seen anything too excessive recently, but I'm not sure. I don't have like somewhere where I don't have a black and white thing on that. I probably should.
My thinking is like if they've got tripod foot, which is like way earlier in the series of things to learn, but if they've got tripod foot and they've still got 50 to 60% weight distribution on the back of their foot, I'll let their knee go as far as it goes.
Okay,
in order to keep the path of the bar correct.
Yeah, so if you start seeing like the heel come up or just not much weight.
Oh yeah, if the heel comes up.
No. Yeah.
If the heel comes up, then we need for generally speaking, if the bar has anything, if they're anything above 50% body weight and the heel comes up, I'll stop the set.
Yeah.
And we'll troubleshoot.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, so I like that bar path if the person knows how to put their foot on the ground.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So it sounds like Jake at least, and maybe Adrian, and then I've just got a couple of bullet points really. But do you guys have? Do you guys want to have the floor?
I want to take it to Adrian because Adrian's only got 40 minutes now, and he's going to start off pretty basic, and I'm not. So.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So my client demographics for folks that haven't had a chance to I mean, I chatted about it 2 weeks ago. Generally speaking, I'm dealing with 35, 40 plus, never trained or hasn't trained in 20 years. And so I deal a lot with beginner. I have two main things sitting. I have a whole section on the tripod foot before we even get off the box.
All right.
And I'm keeping them on the box for quite a bit of time. So let me just open up my client profile here.
So you would do box. Would you not do Swiss ball? I want to hear your thoughts on Swiss ball.
No, I would do a box. I would
first.
A lot of folks, it's honestly a kitchen chair or a dining room chair.
Yeah, just
right?
to sit to stand.
It's virtual like this.
Yeah.
All right, it's virtual like this. So yeah, tripod fit would be like, big toe base, little toe base, heel base, and then that whole idea of engaging with the floor. So an easy way to understand if you're engaging with the floor would be to put a piece of paper under each foot and have them do the tripod foot and then engage with the floor. If they're doing it correctly, the paper will rotate externally a little bit or will crunch up a little bit. Like it'll get a crease or a crack in the paper. If nothing happens to the paper, their foot isn't engaged with the floor. So once we have that, still body weight on the box, we've got knee to toe agreement, right? So it starts at a fairly narrow, but we go wider and wider. But as I'm having them try them out, because different hips likes different width, each time they're checking, okay, if I had a laser pointer on my thigh and a laser pointer on the top of my foot, would they roughly be pointing in the same direction, right? You don't want the knee to toe going like this. Give me just a second. Sorry.
Always keeping us in suspense, this guy.
Oh, I got a coffee delivery.
Look at that. We're making he's injured.
Oh yeah, I've got a quad tendon tear. Okay, then what's next? Appropriate hip hinge. Oh, this is another one. So are they bending at the waist appropriately for a squat? Right, and this is where they basically like twerk on the wall. So I have them stand against the wall and they can't squat because their butt is touching the wall. Take a little step forward and squat. Get that butt to touch the wall. Take a little step forward, squat. Take a little step forward, squat. As you take more steps, you will suddenly find that in order for your butt to touch that wall, you have to lean forward appropriately, or else you're just going to fall on your ass, right? If you've never tried that, it's a big eye opener. If they have equipment, the Swiss ball, right, between their back and the wall, and they can squat with the Swiss ball there until they don't need it, right? And then if they can do all of that while breathing to the box squat, then I consider taking the box away. And that's my beginner squat routine.
Nice. So and then that sounds pretty solid. I should be more disciplined like that. I should be more disciplined because some people will come in and I'll start troubleshooting their squat as a air squat. And maybe actually it would be best to start, it probably wouldn't hurt to start a little bit lower, like on the progression ladder.
Yeah, I don't like to take the chair away until they can, and the way I call it is kiss the chair. So they can get to a reasonable depth squat where their butt cheeks are touching the chair, but there is zero weight in the chair. And then they can get back to a standing position from touching the chair without the knees quivering, without them shaking all over the place, with that. It would honestly be super ideal if around the house they have something closer to like 20 inches, something lower than your standard kitchen chair to test that. Like an ottoman or something like that. You just do what you can with what people have. But if they can do that, a proper depth squat where they touch an object that's a reference point so that they're hitting proper depth, and then come out of that reliably without any of the common markers of what's going wrong, then we take the box away and we go to, and that's just a body weight. And then they're going to be squatting with a broomstick on their back, like literally just a broomstick before they even pick up the bar to make sure that's correct.
Nice. By the book. Yeah.
Yeah. Questions, thoughts?
You have anyone who can't get that depth and that they stay, talking about like an older person, because I have a few clients who a little bit older, 50 plus, and their squats just won't go down that far. Either they're falling forward too much if they go too low, calves just permanently tight, they don't get that shin angle. So do you accept personally yourself the high depth of some clients, or do you continue to work?
We play with different things, right? Like I have one client who's 60, and it looks like a fairly wider than traditional squat. And if you never saw them squat without that width, you might ask, why are they squatting so wide? Because their ankle flexion is pretty terrible. Even if we do like, foot on box, those ankle rockers, you have the foot on the box and you drift the knee forward, drift the knee back, and slowly work that ankle joint to hopefully reduce that limitation. They got nothing. Yeah, they've also, and like, some of their toes are pretty frozen as well. Like they don't have a lot of good mobility in the foot.
Yeah.
Even if we roll it out on a ball and stuff like that. But then, yeah, absolutely. Like, especially with folks that don't have a specific competition goal or something that they need to build towards. I don't see a reason to go into sort of like hyper specialized, go see a physio, go get a scan of your hips, go like in order to hit that depth, right? The other thing that works super well is to elevate their heels, right? Have you ever tried to, put a 10-pound bumper plate underneath their heels and do that?
Yes. I usually just don't do back squats. I go to front squats, and that weight in front allows them to sit lower while staying upright.
Yeah.
So I guess I cheat it that way.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Is there any chance that there's something else in the chain, like core is tight or something, or glutes?
Yeah, usually hips and calves are usually the pains. There's just some clients who, outside of training with me, they won't work on them. So
right.
when they see me 3 times in the week, then it's like, all right, we're gonna foam roll the calves a whole lot. We're gonna put a little cross ball into your hips a whole lot.
Yeah.
It's just like
fun with Jake.
Have you ever done hip thrusts with them?
Yep.
Yeah, like what's their ratio of their 1 rep, or well, most folks I do 4 rep max, but what's their ratio on their 4 rep max squat versus 4 rep max hip thrust?
Ooh, so the one in particular I'm thinking about, we do 4 sets of glute bridges with a bar from 135 pounds up to 205 for 15 reps, all sets.
Yep. And then what's their squat?
Say that again.
And then what's their squat weight like?
We usually stick with between 50 and 70 pounds for a front squat.
Okay. So their glutes are way stronger.
The glutes are pretty strong, yeah.
Right, because have you seen that graph where it shows like sort of distribution glute to quad? And they're inversely proportional. That's right. Depth, it switches to glutes. At the top of the range, it moves back to squats, and it sort of does this. So that's another one to think about if your client's having trouble. Maybe it's a confidence issue at the bottom, or it could be that their quads, their glutes don't turn on. Have you tried banded squats with a heavy glute band?
This client in particular has proximal hamstring tendinopathy, so we can't use the glutes. We can't use the bands around the thighs. I have tried that, and it does help. There's some things that we're limited to. I'm interested in that ratio quads to glutes, so send that to me or send that to the group.
Okay. Yep.
I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah, I remember this particular graph that I'll try to find. Cool. So that's mine. I wanted to really focus on the super basics.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
Freddie, what you got?
Just after last time, I just wrote a couple of notes that are kind of my opinions on it. So I'm hoping, I mean, frankly, obviously, hope just everybody perfectly agrees, but hoping people will have some random disagreements. If I recall correctly, though, they're a bit safe. So I'll just list them out. We'll see what we got. So first bullet point: entire body from floor to bar must be working to transfer the force, not just the legs. What do you guys reckon?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I agree.
Definitely, yeah.
Nice. Got to get those biceps going. But no, it's like most of the body, right? So then I got neutral spine, erectors / abdominals brace, as well as lats and glutes.
Mm-hmm.
What do you reckon about those added? All right.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have.
And I think the lats contribute a lot to keeping the spine neutral as well.
Yeah.
Right. Because if they're just totally disengaged and the spine's just gonna do whatever, so definitely I think it's potentially dangerous. Yeah.
Underrated. I think underrated.
Mm-hmm.
What's your cue for somebody that doesn't get what you're saying?
Armpit squeeze can be one for the lats, or generally I'll just say lats because at that point they'll know what that means. But I think the armpit squeeze one could work.
Do you try to
here too? Just tell them to pull it into their shoulders.
Yeah, but then what you can end up with is a bit more retraction rather than like extension. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, you could definitely do that. Yeah.
Those pedals pull the elbows back, and then that has the added effect of locking the bar onto their traps as well.
Yeah, the elbows kind of down thing. Yeah, I think that's a good one. It just never worked for me. Yeah.
The elbows to the back wall kind of thing.
Okay, right. Yeah. So moving. Yeah. To get a retraction.
Very much saying an extension rather than
a retraction. Yeah. I think that can be an issue, but especially when you're actually with the person and you're not just giving them instructions like by text or something. It's pretty easy to be like, no, just more like this. What's that? Ali?
Like literally poking them and saying this bit here.
I mean, I've definitely done that. I think we probably all have at points.
With the armpit squeeze, what I like is it's like pretend someone's trying to tickle your armpit and you want to stop them.
Yeah, juice the grapefruit.
Yeah. Don't
actually this is like totally well, actually it's not super off topic, but in terms of with squatting, with deadlifting, with a lot of movements where you want like a proud, I've heard people say things like proud chest, I want to see the logo on your shirt. But hold on, did you drop it? Okay, sorry, I've got 3 kids. But one of my favorites is hold on a second. One of my favorites, though, is with squats and deadlifts and all that stuff is showing your nipples to the wall. To help keep people because, I see so many people in group classes and stuff like that doing squats and they're going like this. They're just bending forward. And I'm just like.
Well, good morning. Yeah.
They're hinging more. Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah. I take because I do body pump like twice a week, and just like half the class is just like squatting like this, and I'm like, stop it.
Yeah. I used to teach body pump too. It's you like look throughout, and it's like, oh my God, there's so many different squats going on here.
Yeah, but the whole thing. Yeah, I always try to tell people because I mean it's something it sticks in your head, like show your nipples to the wall, like it,
Mm-hmm. So what do you look for to cue a person to engage the lats? Like what is your go-to when they're doing the squat that you're thinking, okay, here's the problem, their lats are not being engaged?
I think, that's how I answered the last question. So the armpit thing, I think, and then it depends on, I always have a problem with clients, whether I say like extension or arch, but depending on the client, I'll say extend or arch, or think about, it's more like unflex your thoracic spine. So your like upper back. So I'll be like, unbend your like upper back, straighten it out and keep it strong using these muscles. But the armpit thing I've definitely used before. And the prodding, if I know the client really well and we're friends.
I see thoracic rounding when the lats are loose.
Yeah.
Were you asking sort of like how you cue it, or how you know they're failing?
Well, I think the thing is sometimes I think like us as trainers, all we can see is just what does the movement look like? And you can't always look inside the body like, oh, are they fully engaging this muscle or are they not engaging this muscle? Like what's
Especially
really going on
overweight.
right here? Yeah. And sometimes, of course, especially when I'm working with a beginner, I give them a squat or something to do. It looks really great. There's hardly any weight that they're dealing with. So I don't know, maybe they're engaging their lats. I don't know. But, as soon as you throw some more weight on there, suddenly there's a problem. So sometimes it's like, you don't want to, there's so many cues you can get to a squat, right? It's so complicated. So sometimes it's like, you don't want to overwhelm people with tons of cues at the beginning. But of course, engaging your lats is super important for getting better at the squat long term. So I guess I was, maybe just asking, what your own individual protocols are for even teaching something like that. Because I think if you're a total beginner, engaging the lats sometimes it seems a little esoteric almost, like, what in the world do you mean? Like I may not be aware of my body very much at all.
Yeah.
I talked about this 2 weeks ago, unilateral. Load them unilaterally and get them to do the work, and then get them to do it on the other side. So let's say your client is very, they're 6'2", 200-pound male who probably, and I'm giving these measurements just so that we have an understanding of the ratio of the weight. When you put the bar on their back, they're lugging around 200 pounds all day, every day anyway. So a 45-pound bar on their back isn't particularly challenging. Right. And so you're doing all these cues, everything looks wonderful. And then you ask them, okay, how hard is that? And they're like, oh, it's like a 3 out of 10. So you throw some 45s on, right, for 135, which is not a particularly impressive squat, and everything falls apart, right? Like that's kind of what you're describing. So so put the 45-pound bar away, grab a 35-pound dumbbell and have them front load it unilaterally, get that shoulder, scapular depression, the good rack position, elbow in, and then have them squat with it one side and then have them squat with it the other side and see if they can maintain that positioning.
Okay.
And I've had a lot of success with that, especially with people that don't understand what's working. Because let's say you've loaded up unilaterally and you've got that locked in rack position, the other arm is out, making a fist if they're having trouble engage, right? And they're doing the work. It's really easy to notice what's going on this side that's not going on this side. And be like, it's that thing. Okay. Oh, it's that thing. Okay. And then try it with both. They're like, oh, look at that, right? As opposed to upping the weight. That's what's helped me in the past.
Cool. So I'll, if everybody's cool with that, I'll say a couple more of my bullet points. See if we can get any contentious issues going. So I've got hold breath until past most difficult point. What do you guys reckon about breathing?
I like that better than people who breathe erratically.
I am not in any, I'm gonna preface by saying this, I am not in any way, shape, or form experienced. Like I said, I honestly just started studying in all of this, right? Like I want to say since October of last year all the way up to now. But I find what helps me and what helps others when I help them out or when I'm lifting with them is that keeping a steady breath as opposed to just holding it or breathing erratically, like forgive me, I forgot your name, Mr. Adrian, who was off the camera. I find breathing steadily helps, like a quick in for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, or in for 5, out for 5, whatever have you, right? I find that helps a lot more. If it's a very, very heavy weight, though, I will agree holding your breath does help. Like then you get the risk of, I don't know the medical term for it, but like when you get a head rush, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. I've blanked the term for it as well. But isn't it that So my understanding of it is that that is really, really unlikely to happen. Whereas like tweaking your lower back is like actually pretty likely to happen. But that's yeah. But I agree. Like or basically what I should have said, and you it's good that you pulled me up on it. I mean I basically teach it like that from the bottom up, but it's most important at the heaviest weights. Yeah, for sure.
I've got a beginner perspective if you want it.
Love it.
Okay, so make your belly soft and drive your fingers into your core. Right, do that now. Right, and then what I'd like you to do is empty all the air out and keep your core really soft. Exhale everything. And now what I'd like you to do is at the same time, inhale deep and squeeze your core. Should be freaking hard, right? To inhale and squeeze your core. Okay, great. Let everything relax for a moment. Let everything relax. Good. Now what I'd like you to do is fingers into a loose belly, fill your lungs with air. Fill your lungs with air. Squeeze your core as hard as you can as you exhale. How easy is that? Right? It's intuitive. It's natural. In fact, the squeezing of the core pushes the air out. So if you need a beginner to protect themselves by bracing, have them be squeezing their core to exhale at the most dangerous part of what you're doing. Only because it's more intuitive. It's not the right answer for a professional lifter, for a power lifter. But I found it helpful for folks who don't know how to get that core engagement. Use the breathing for that.
Interesting. So you would get them to brace like during the lift is what you do?
Well, for a squat, as long as their pacing isn't too slow for a beginner, you could have them exhale for the entire squat. So
as in right.
And the whole time their core is tight because they're doing this slow exhale, core squeezing, bracing, and then at the top, right? And again, try it with your next.
I'd never thought about that and how that could be better for a beginner.
Try it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
I can't even do a squat right now, so I can't show you.
Oh, yeah. Like you're blowing up a water balloon, and you're slowly, or not a water balloon, just a balloon.
Yeah.
And then you just burst your lips and just try to expand as much air out of your mouth by keeping your lips as closed as you can.
Like like Valsalva, like or you saying with your lips a little bit open. Okay, with a little bit. Interesting. Okay, so
for the beginner, getting them aware of their core.
Cool. Yeah. Actually, I don't think I wrote anything on here about this, but do you guys pre-activate using like abdominal exercises? If somebody, say it's like somebody who's working on their squat, you're just celebrating.
Yes.
No.
Always pre-activate.
Okay, right.
Yeah, depending on the client. If it's, as you say, someone who's particularly working on the squat or somebody who lacks proprioception, then yes, stuff I found useful getting them to do. Either things like oblique crunches, just become really aware of the outer obliques, or have you ever done a kettlebell oblique opener? So you have them lie on their backs and have the kettlebell on their lower stomach just below their belly button. And then you get them to just, by breathing, to press the kettlebell out as much as they can. And basically, the only way they can do that is basically by expanding and engaging their obliques. So
okay. Nice. Yeah. So mine's really basic. It's just plank and side plank. Yours sound better.
Is there any harm in not warming up your core before squatting?
Oh, you're cutting out a little bit, but I heard you. Sorry. Well, I'll let other people answer.
Yes and no. Like Ollie said, if you have perfect proprioception and everything is already engaged, which is highly unlikely, just doing belly breathing or warming up whatever muscles you're going to use, the squat is like the biggest concentric movement you can do, and you're using so many muscles with it. And so if you're not warming up for it, that's just that movement alone, there's more likely you're going to injure something than any other exercise not warming up for it.
I'm sorry, I meant specifically just warming up your core before squatting.
Yeah, my theory is that it'll make like the likelihood of a lower back issue go down.
Mm.
That's the working theory.
Just helping someone get more in touch with the bracing that's needed when they're going anything reasonably heavy.
To add to that, I think most clients have sort of two different things that you want to be aware of with them. First, do they have a strong core, right? Which you've discovered based on doing core work with them. And then secondly, can they use their core to brace during other exercises, right? And so you're going to learn those two things as you're working with them. One of my favorite trainers would literally take their cell phone and sort of jam it into different parts of the person's core during the squat, of course with consent and with an understanding of it. But he was all about that, and he's a pretty intense trainer as well. So you're going to expect sort of a higher a real intensity to the actual workout, but like he's not going to let that go. But so if you have somebody that doesn't know how to use their core, pre-exhaustion works nicely to bring awareness. I find this makes way more sense for me for push-ups because the translation is incredibly easy, right? Like having somebody do a whole series of core work, hollow body type work, planking type work, some sort of upper and lower abdominal work, and their core is really nice and tired. Then have them do some push-ups, and then all of a sudden they're like, holy moly, my core is a huge part of these push-ups. And I was like, that's what I was trying to explain to you. You've got to brace during the push-up. A push-up is just a mobile plank. Now and that brings the awareness. But is that a good idea if you're working on a 4-rep max? No, right? Because you've pre-exhausted one piece of the chain.
Yeah, going off of what Adrian said, I think it very much depends for me on who the client is. So if I've been working with them for a long time and I'm reasonably sure that they do have a strong core, I mean, the warm up to whatever exercise we might be doing might just be doing the exercise, but at a lighter intensity, right?
Yeah.
But if they're a beginner, I do like to, go ahead and kind of build it from the ground up. So say we're doing something like deadlifts. Okay, let's do a plank first. Let's just see if you can stabilize your spine isometrically. Okay, let's do some hip hinges right now. Let's just work at one joint and see if you can still keep your spine nice and stable. Okay, now let's make it a full deadlift so that they kind of understand, how that progression happens right there.
Yeah.
Who said that they do the stair step? Well, I don't want to call anybody out, but so 10 minutes on the stair stepper before squats, I'm just looking at what the chat is happening, is awesome. There is nothing bad about that whatsoever. That's a fantastic endurance-based workout. And then in theory, your squats that you're about to do are also going to be an endurance-based workout because of the amount of repetitions. It would be interesting for you to try the minimum appropriate warm-up for squats and see what the numbers are for your squat after that as well. Right? So a easy set of core, an easy set of body weight squats, some easy leg extensions on the machine, maybe some 2 or 3 things really easy, and then go into just squats where you're basically fresh, and you'll hopefully feel a different workout.
Actually, I had to, the other day I had to do what is it, at the YMCA that I go to, there's only one stair stepper open right now because of like social distancing, and somebody was on it when I wanted to work out. It's just like full of rage, and I'm just like, damn it, don't they understand this is my personal gym and they're not allowed to use the equipment when I want it? No, so I was kind of mad and I was kind of in a hurry. And so, yeah, I just like did some jumping jacks and high knees for like 2 minutes and then tried to squat, and it sucked. I really struggled. So, yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if it was mental because I was also mad, but.
Did you feel, what did you feel like sucked about it? Maybe like knees or something? Could you describe it?
Yeah, it just felt harder than normal.
Okay.
I struggled. I struggled coming up a little bit more than I normally would. So it just felt like maybe I was probably like focusing more on it, so it was probably a bias there. But I felt like my legs weren't as warmed up. And so I didn't feel, and also like my heart rate wasn't as more, I was kind of going in colder than I normally did. So it felt more difficult, and it felt heavier than it would have with, than when I would do my normal warm up. So,
yeah.
So that just means your muscles weren't activated yet. You're probably also doing linear sets. So like 5 sets at 100. That's not your number. I'm just saying that somebody who comes into, let's say you're going to do 5 sets of 5 reps at 100. Your first set is the same as your last in terms of weight. Your muscles need to be fully activated before you start. So that makes a ton of sense. Have you ever done, say, 50%, 65%, 80%, and then working weight style of squatting?
No, actually, but my trainer on Saturday, because I'm working with the trainer right now for lifting heavier, and she was like appalled that I don't do like a warm up set. When I was like, I didn't know you were supposed to. She's like, what? You just go into it? And I'm like, yeah. Also, like, I'm in a hurry, so yeah, I don't. But yeah, I need. Does that sound like I need to start doing that?
Well, that's the replacement to the 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's, like I said, there's absolutely, I don't think that there's anything wrong, especially if your goals have to do with burning calories and endurance, with the methodology of like 10 minutes and then getting into your squats. I don't see a problem with that whatsoever. But let's say you wanted to hit a new record in terms of your best squat ever, then it wouldn't be appropriate. You'd want to be doing base activation, warm-up sets, gradually moving to your best to your best weight reasonably early in your squatting set, like 3rd set.
Actually, question for you guys: where do we learn this stuff? Because I just finished up I'm going to take my CPT exam next week. So I just finished up all of the coursework with NASM, and NASM, it was a lot of information. I feel like it's been really helpful, but yeah, like I feel like actual practical knowledge, like this is why I have to go see a trainer to learn how to lift properly, because I didn't learn it in my CPT course. They didn't really teach a lot of that. So I'm like, where do you go to learn this stuff? Like once you're a certified personal trainer, if your course didn't cover this, like where do you learn it?
You learn it here.
This is exactly, yeah, like good. A really big reason that this is super appealing to me, I think I said it last week, so I hope I don't sound too much like a broken record, but a really big reason that this is appealing to me is because I'm no longer, because I used to manage a team of 20 trainers. And so every day I would be in the gym, almost every day, 6 days a week, I'd be in the gym chatting with 2 or 3 different trainers or watching how they trained and then going and figuring it out, right? Like I had no idea when I first started, what the heck is 5-3-1? What are you talking? Are you serious? You do 5, 3, and 1, and that's it, and then you leave? Like that's 3 sets. You just did 9 reps.
Every workout.
And then they're like, oh man, I only placed 2nd in my powerlifting meet for the province. And I'm like, wait a second. So you're doing 8 reps and you're 2nd strongest male at 225 pounds in the province? I think I need to go do some reading, right? so I just had no idea what these powerlifting programs were like until I got to hang out with powerlifting trainers. And so that's how I learned a lot of the stuff. Like at the very, very beginning, I was probably putting every client on a sort of 4 to 5 sets at 6 to 10 reps, linear progression in terms of the weight, same weight every set, through a series of traditional exercises. Right? There's no variation in weight. There's no variation in sort of rep and set patterns depending on their goals. I didn't learn that until, a while in.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, even a workout like that, you're going to get especially for new people, you're going to get great results anyway. So that's kind of the good thing. I mean, there is a problem with, because I had it too. I've been in the gym for a long time before I did my course, but I didn't learn anything on my course really. But then again, it's still, I think it's just, it's still useful. Like like Adrian was saying, you give somebody that program, that's not the end of the world. That's not like you're a doctor who's doing malpractice. That's just like, it's just not optimal,
Yeah, and like it's one of the things that I did early on, which I say to everyone. It was luck. It was luck for me because I went from an IT career where I was making really good money to sort of I wanted to make like the clean break and a switch, and so I budgeted myself to be able to barely live on $20,000 a year because I didn't think at first I would be good at personal training, and then I had a business plan. In 18 months, I need to be at this number, or I'm going back to IT, or something along those lines, or I need to make a change. So at the beginning, I said yes to everything, to like every type of client, any class. Like one of the biggest game changers for me was that I had to teach a core class for a core class for 45 minutes or 30 to 45 minutes at a Y. And I'd never really taught a core class before. And that was a game changer for me because I had to learn like 50 different core exercises to keep it interesting. Right. So anyway, that idea of saying yes to everything, I trained the 6'8" bean pole. I trained the 6 foot morbidly obese. I trained the 5'1" triathlete who just never deadlifted before. I've trained a yoga instructor to do their first deadlift, which was a dream, by the way. It took 4 minutes or 3 minutes, right? Like it was the easiest lesson ever, right? And so just like seeing everyone and then just taking notes on your questions, like why didn't that work for this person? Why did this work? What's different about that person? What's different about that person? And yeah, that's how I learned a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of experience. I also got the NASM CPT, and I didn't feel like I was really a trainer after that until like 2 years later. I did the corrective exercise specialist, and that's what I'm going to go through today with my squat information.
Nice.
But it taught me a ton, like what to properly warm up, what's overactive, underactive, and it breaks it down like so detailed. It's almost overwhelming. Like if you're falling forward, oh, there's 6 muscles that are overactive, and then what to do about it. So a lot of experience.
Awesome.
No, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. Because honestly, yeah, especially towards the end of my course, I feel kind of inadequate. Like, you know, I'm now basically almost a trainer and I have to use a trainer to, you know, like learn how to, you know, fix my own deadlift and fix my own squats and all this stuff. Like, shouldn't I just be able to do it myself? And it's like, yeah,
I reckon we all need, we probably all of us, like we post form vids, like there's going to be flaws in all of our lifts probably. So yeah, definitely don't be too hard on yourself. And you know, it seems like you're still keen to learn. So, you know, you're pretty damn good in my book.
Yeah, but but I mean, if you guys have come across any resources like books or YouTube video series or podcasts, anything, I mean, I know that this is great. This is helping. This is why, you know, this is why I'm here and I show up every week. I love it. So thanks everybody for coming and all that stuff. But yeah, if you know any other resources, I'm all about it. So I will read whatever.
So I love Stronger by Science. I absolutely love Stronger by Science. That's the first one that comes to, oh yeah, that's the Brett book, the Glute Lab. But Stronger by Science is awesome, and they've got guides on the lifts, which I'm pretty sure are like super good. It's been a while.
Would it be possible for you to send that to me?
The thing that I'm talking about, Brian.
Yeah,
yeah. Let me get the link. So most of it's free. I think. I mean, I've never paid for it, but I think they do have a paid version. But they've got tons of good free stuff.
I got it. It is literally
thanks.
strongerbyscience.com.
Oh, fair.
Thank you.
Yeah, super good.
Their podcast is amazing. Especially if you're technical, their podcast is amazing. Or if you want to fall asleep.
I've always meant to listen to it. It's on my Spotify, but I just haven't got around to it. I need to get on that.
And I like this. This is a lot.
What, the Stronger by Science?
Just reading studies.
Oh, the meta-analysis thing on Stronger by Science is one of my bookmarks. It's so sick. It's so sick.
You know, I would even say, I think that's probably part of what separates, you know, good personal trainers probably from great personal trainers is probably, you know, the better ones out there. They know what they don't know. They're comfortable saying, I don't know that, let me look into it. Or, hey, you know what, I'm not the one to help you with this, but you know what, let me refer you out to this trainer that I know that specializes in this. Or, you know what, I don't know about it, let me learn about it and then get back to you. Because yeah, I mean, I feel like with all the, I feel like this, the science behind training and stuff is there's so many updates, it's evolving. So yeah, I feel like this is, I guess if you're a personal trainer, you're signing up for, lifetime of learning, sounds like.
Yeah.
And I just want to add to that super quick, because what I think that you need to keep in mind with that learning aspect is having a really strong sense of sort of like yellow and red flags for the movements. So let's say, you do have your first ever powerlifting client. They're early in their career, so they're not you're not going to, as a newbie powerlifter, you're not going to try to coach somebody who's advanced, right? But you've got your first person who's like, oh, you know what, I just want to lift as heavy as possible. And this is one of your first time taking them through, focusing your attention on like, wait a second, what are the things that I need to do to keep my person safe, right? Because if in 6 months, the best powerlifting coach would double their weight with no injuries, and in 6 months you increase their weight by 50%, so you're half as good as that person, but there's no injuries, I'm very happy. Like, as a client, I'd be very, very happy, right? Because typically if that highest level sort of powerlifting coach is also a premium in terms of cost, right?
Yeah. Probably be like at least double like what a normal PT would
yeah,
be.
and what I've seen, the only time I've ever literally walked into one of my trainer sessions and talked to them was when there's sort of like these red flag, yellow flag moments where something's wrong, right?
And they're not noticing it. You can tell they're not noticing it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so if you keep them away, really far away from things that are dangerous and maybe can cause injury, and you're learning with your people, I think that's amazing. I'm going to try to listen as I drive to my client. Not sure if it's going to work, but thanks, everybody.
Nice.
And, at minimum, I'll see you next week.
Sweet. Cheers, Adrian.
Bye.
Good night.
So, Jake,
Safe.
what do we got?
All right. I wrote a bunch of stuff on a whiteboard, and we can go by like step by step. I tried to do this in 3 minutes. I actually tried to make a video in this in like 5 minutes, and I couldn't. It's just a lot. So we'll go step by step, and then just questions can come, debates can come, as much as you want. So let me get set up here. And it's cold. It is so cold in the garage right now. All right. Tell me if that's
all right. I'm going to go on speaker view, so I got full screen of you.
So this is kind of a breakdown of what I look for when consulting a squat. So I have somebody do a squat, and the first thing that I look at is the feet and the ankles. Where's the weight? Is the weight on the toes? Is it on the heels? Is it directly in the middle? Do their heels lift up? Do their feet flatten? So you look at the feet, you can kind of tell that their toes kind of dip in, and just that flat eversion. And then the last is the toes evert. So the toes will go out just a little bit, but if they're really going out as they're going down, right? These are all problem things. Feet and ankles. Anybody have any more? Look for?
I don't want to discredit myself here. Is eversion like this? I thought eversion was like this. Well, no, I guess. But I could be wrong. I think I'm probably wrong.
Off to Jen.
Oh, I'll mute Adrian and give him a thing in the chat just so it doesn't come on screen. If I can.
Oh, I didn't realize I'm not muted. Sorry about that, everybody.
Oh, that's all right.
Adrian?
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, the feet thing. I just think about like the tripod thing, or what. To be honest, what I actually think about is just trying to keep an arch, and that's something that was missing from my squat for ages. Sorry, what was that the question? Sorry.
No, whatever you want.
Okay, cool. No questions from me. You guys?
One thing I learned from another trainer is with squatting and with deadlifting is he called it short foot. That's where, and the way he described it, and then this is what I love about just like meeting other trainers and hearing how they train is like hearing how they explain something, you know, because you know, if you throw out all these like technical terms and you use the muscle names, your clients are going to be like, what? Like, I don't understand. Or yeah, if you say like the dorsiflexion of your ankle, you know, you're losing them. So I think this trainer, so he said short foot, and it's where you like stand and you like pretend, you take your toes and pretend like you're trying to dig a hole in the sand with your toes.
Oh, cool.
And then also you turn your feet, you put the weight on your feet a little bit like that. And then that should put your foot, and then that activates your glutes and the other parts of the backs of your leg, and it puts your feet in the right position, and then you can start the lift. So short foot is something I learned recently. So is that sort of what you're talking about, Jacob?
Yes, exactly. And so what that takes away is a lot of the pressure on the gastrocnemius, particularly the lateral side. There's a muscle called the peroneus longus that just runs like right down the side of the calf. And if you flatten your feet, that muscle flexes. So that's one of the most common places that we foam roll before doing squats, because if your feet are flattening, or if you don't have that shin angle, then that's probably why.
Okay. So sorry. Yeah. I get you. Nice. So where is it that you foam roll? Sorry.
The lateral part of your calf and the gastrocnemius, so the upper part of the calf, the big meaty part.
Nice.
This is really the issues that I see in my day-to-day. There's going to be more, but as far as time is concerned, in my experience, I'm not going to go through everything. So if somebody else has something to add to it, feel free.
This looks amazing.
Let's move on to the knees. All right. So knee valgus is just when the knees come in together. All right. If you're bending down and your knees go like that, I think it's something me and Adrian talked about before. It happens a lot more in females than it does in males. That's one of the leading causes of ACL tears is that knee valgus. So if we're seeing that, then it's not a good thing. And the debate is, well, do the knees go straight in line with the toes, or can they go out? And that really all depends on your hip socket ball and joint. Everybody is positioned differently in that regard. Some have wider hips, some have more narrow hips. So to be able to test out where your greatest range of motion is, you just pull your knee up to your chest and find out, oh, it's more out than it is more narrow. There's a couple issues that cause knee valgus, which we'll go into over here. Does anybody else have anything going on with these?
Can I ask a question? I got really excited about what you're talking about. Have you ever tried, instead of pulling knee to chest, asking them to do forehead and chest down child pose? Like if they can do child pose knees together to chest versus like myself, for me to get head and chest down in child pose, my knees have to be quite wide, and my squats are quite wide.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great way to do it too. If the client will let me, I'll have them lay on their back and we'll do one leg at a time, and we'll kind of find out where that range is best, where the knee comes up the highest. So I like that. All right, move on to hips. Hips and core. I categorize them the same because they work simultaneously. A hip hike. So when you're going down into the squat and one hip raises more than the other, or your butt kind of comes out on one side, problematic. The pelvic tilt. So when you're coming down and your pelvis is rotating forward, your lower back is arching excessively and you're putting a lot of weight on the quads. It's not a great thing to do. And that goes along with rounding and arching. So those are the 3 or 4 main things that I'll look at when somebody's doing a squat as problematic.
Yeah, and whether it's an anterior pelvic tilt or a posterior, because that
Right.
can also come up quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah, and at which point in the movement? Because I you know, in the kind of classic butt wink case, it's like a anterior tilt that goes into a posterior, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So what's your opinion on the butt wink?
Oh, I want to listen to you guys on this. Over the years, I've just heard so much. Like, oh man, yeah. Oh, all right, no, I'll go.
Debate as old as time.
Yeah, it truly is.
Yeah.
Because I think, yeah, when I was working in physio, basically it was like, there was arguments within physio about it, but it was basically like, if it's, you know, if it's body weight and they're super strong, then you'll be all right, because the human body, like the human spine, is actually designed to do this. But based on my experience, it's bait for back tweaks. What do you guys think?
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, if you're just talking about getting into a like deep squat, your hips are going to have to go into that posterior tilt. And that's actually like a mobility test that I give a lot of new people anyways. But I'm personally super against having a butt wink occur in an actual weighted squat. I think it's dangerous.
Yeah, and for me, it's kind of mediated by like how well braced you are. I think there's a difference between completely unbraced butt wink, where you're loading into your lower back, and then your entire squat is being powered by your lower back, and then it just goes into flexion, which is like bad. And then there's ones where it's like, it's a bit different, where you're bracing, and then there's just a little bit of butt wink at the bottom, but it's not like the prime mover just got ousted like in the first scenario.
And that's where I was going to interject. I mean, to me, it seems like if it's a major one with weight, if it's a major butt wink, I'm talking like their entire pelvis moves.
Yeah.
I'd say about a few inches forward, like 4 or 5 inches, or even 6 in some cases, inches forward, that would be dangerous to me. But if it's like a minor, it kind of pushed forward maybe 1 or 2 inches, I wouldn't think it would be as harmful as, the other one.
Yeah.
It's not to say, and I hate to cut you off.
No.
It's not to say that, either way you wouldn't get injured. You get what I'm saying? But I think personally, butt wink isn't, so long as it's not a major one, it shouldn't be too big of a problem. Because like you guys were saying, it does occur naturally. And like Freddie was saying specifically, your spine is kind of built for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like the actual force, like I remember this being a thing in physio, the actual force that each vertebrae can take is ridiculously high. And most of the time the back like problems are actually just like a pain signal rather than damage. But yeah. Like the amount of rotation, like the amount that it's rotating has got to be a factor. That's kind of, I'd never really thought about it like that, but it's definitely a factor in my mind of obviously how big the butt wink is. Yeah.
Well, do you have the glute strength to come back up straight, or are your hips coming up before your upper body? That would be more problematic with the butt wink if all of a sudden you go into that butt wink and then your hips come up before your chest comes up. You're just loading way more stress onto your lower back that way. I don't think it's a terrible thing to have a little butt wink. You see super heavy lifters, and they'll have a slight one at the bottom, especially these giant guys who go all the way ass to grass. They have it a little bit.
Yeah.
I guess the reason would be, I guess for me, I would want to know, what is the reason that you're doing it even? So, I think, a lot of times with a beginner, they're probably not even aware that they're doing it. And it might actually take even several minutes for you to even explain to them, right, and be able to see it. But I guess if you have a really important reason for why you're doing it, then maybe. But I think, you know, also sometimes, you know, with the really big guys, they're lifting really impressive weight, and, you know, there is some butt wink that occurs. I mean, yeah, they've made it to really impressive weight, but those people do also injure themselves as well quite frequently. So sometimes I don't know if that's a good argument.
Yes. Yeah. No, I was going to say that, like, obviously it's, you know, you don't want to be I don't want to be world champion squatter and then not be able to, you know, and then have back pain for the rest of my life. So it's an important argument, but definitely that is a counter. Yeah.
Can I jump in with a super quick
argument?
My argument comes from the point of view of income. So a lot of my clients already have sore backs, and I've found that they come to me for relief for the most part, as opposed to for performance. So I've stayed away from it and had a lot of positive feedback from people that are like, oh, my back feels amazing for the next few days after working with you. And that's definitely led to me making more money.
So actually just giving, I mean, and it's not actually a bad thing, but you're saying actually adherence to your sessions is increased by, keeping people's back feeling nice, which I suppose, makes sense.
Which would be in opposition to best depth and highest weight possible.
Yeah.
Which would be sort of a performance focus, where the person's coming to me and like, yeah, I went from 3rd place last competition to 6th place with you. What the hell, right? I mean, you feel great all week, but you suck at squats now, right? Like that's the counter argument to the way that I approach it.
The debate will continue as long as the time.
Nice.
Okay. 2 left, chest and neck. If you're falling forward during your squat, if your chest is falling forward, I see this more with back squats, less with front squats. So if somebody's really falling forward, their calves are probably tight and they're not able to get that shin angle. They're either coming up on their toes, not able to stay back in the middle or the back of the foot, or they're bracing, their core isn't strong. So what I find works a little bit more for the core, doesn't really help for the calves or anything, but front squats. So there's a lot of front squats that go on in my gym, just because of that reason. I find more people lack the core strength and have more excessive lower back arch. So just in my experience, the falling forward and then the neck head jut, it doesn't happen that often, but every once in a while I see someone go.
Yeah.
Not great.
The thing is with what you're saying with front squat, like you couldn't afford to lean too far forward in front squat. It would just be horrible, right? You just fall over. It just feels like your natural inclination is to like go to stay back, isn't it?
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
No, I wasn't disagreeing. I was saying, you know, it makes sense.
I kind of want to try a front squat and try to lean forward now. So
how do you all feel about the neck extension going down in the squat? So, you know, like continuing to look in the mirror or something as you get down to the bottom.
That was actually one of my other bullet points. There was a couple more, and my thing was neck in line with spine, which translates to looking down or diagonally down, not completely down, diagonally down at the bottom of the squat. So you're looking forward at the top, theoretically, or at least pretty much forward, and then like diagonally down at the bottom. That's the way I do it.
Yeah.
Would you guys agree with that? Any thoughts?
That's how I do it. Yeah, I'd like to know what. So Daniel, do you coach people to look up or?
No. I tell them, you know, all the time, looking in the mirror is great because I am a big fan of using mirrors for sure. But I always tell people look with your eyes rather than look with your head. Oh yeah, that squat. So
because it is hard because in a way one of the good cues is like, you know, chest up, but then it's just baiting them into too much extension. It
is,
and with myself I found that for sure. But no, I love that. If I could, yeah, if you like, yeah, the mirrors are super useful. Yeah.
So along with the overactive, underactive reasons why there's dysfunction and muscle imbalances in the body, a lot of the feet and ankles comes from the calves. So if you've got an issue with tight calves, it's likely going to lead into the knees and to the hips. So that's what I look at first. So I'll look at from the side, from the front, from the back. Are they flat foot? Roll out the calves. Usually they have a little bit more range of motion then. If they can sit back on the back of their foot, back of their heel more. And then we look at the knees. Not often are the adductors a culprit, but sometimes they are. A quick foam roll to the adductors, instantly gone. Calves might take a week of foam rolling to really get rid of the tightness. Adductors, 1 day. I've never had an issue.
Really?
Yep. And occasionally they'll get tight again, but
Yeah.
if you just kind of understand, oh, okay, I feel some tightness in here, I foam roll. But it comes to the hips. The hips can cause the knees to go in from that anterior pelvic tilt. I don't have so much experience with posterior pelvic tilt. I don't see that very often, so I won't spend a lot of time with it. But that anterior pelvic tilt will start to cause hip flexors, piriformis, piriformis being an outside of the glute area. If you put your heel up on top of your knee, push down on your knee, pull up on your heel, and lean forward, you'll stretch that muscle. Something that I didn't know probably until 3 years into my training, which is crazy.
Well, do you mean like putting your leg like this over here like that? Yeah.
So foam rolling that, and I've got a nice hip opening that I do, something that we talked about before with a lacrosse ball. So you lay on your back and you bring one knee up to your chest, and you put that ball underneath the glute, outside of the glute area of the knee that's to your chest, and then you'll bring it out, bring it back in, raise it up, out, and just over and over, and you'll loosen up that area and create more range of motion for that.
That's a fun session as well.
Yeah. Takes up 20 minutes of the workout though.
Painful.
And then what's your guys' opinion on lower back arching versus rounding? What do you see more?
Are you talking about in like the bottom of a squat or just their natural standing posture?
Bottom of the squat.
Okay.
But bottom of the squat, posterior, but standing posture, I think anterior is more of an issue. I don't know if I'm projecting that because it's me, but I think most people, yeah, I never really see, I don't really often see, especially with younger people, I don't see posterior pelvic tilt like in a standing posture often at all. But at the bottom of a squat, sure, like I'd say it's more. In fact, I wouldn't see anterior at the bottom of the squat, depending on what you'd class. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What about those Instagram models that are booty blasters? I would say almost all of them have tilt throughout.
And even at the bottom, really? Wow,
Yep.
yeah.
They're so far leaned forward.
Fair, yeah. That's a good point. Got to always be twerking.
Yep.
Well, how do you all train the position at the bottom of the squat? Because what I usually tell my clients is what you really want at the bottom of the squat is a neutral tilt right here. Yet the default for most people is going to be getting into that posterior pelvic tilt, right? So I tell them, think about like you want to go into an anterior pelvic tilt, but we don't actually want that. And for most of my clients, that works out pretty well. There are your booty blaster Instagram models, right, who have the hip flexibility to still get into a very significant sort of anterior tilt at the bottom. But for most people,
Yeah.
I teach it more to actually be kind of a neutral thing. But
That's a cool
I know that's
cue.
a debatable area. Yeah.
No, I like that. So it's like, yeah, because for one, or at least in a lot of cases, they actually can't do an anterior tilt at the bottom.
Yeah.
You're like, go anterior as you can, will get you pretty neutral. I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah.
Glutes and abs. Glutes and abs and glutes and abs and glutes and abs. If anybody has any sort of anterior pelvic tilt throughout the squat, that's what we work on. We warm up glutes. We do belly breathing. Sometimes we do belly breathing, crunches, anything to warm up the core to get that bridge.
And do you set the pelvis position at the top? So that's what I use, especially glutes to set it at the top, and then core just throughout to set that pelvic position. Like in a case where somebody's naturally anterior, like tilted forward, lower back arched.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So now I'm going to try squat with the front squat, and I'm going to try and lean forward as far as I can.
Nice. Well, on camera.
Mute myself for a second.
I didn't make the popcorn, man. Damn it.
I'll twerk later for you.
Can I bring up a controversial body structure that hasn't been brought up?
Oh, nice.
In the squat thing. So, what's everyone's thoughts about the IT band and tightness and whether or not we should roll it?
The IT band. I'm going to leave this one.
Okay.
So I think my IT bands are tight.
As being overactive.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't really know, but I've been playing around with it lately with the foam roller. I've got a scraper. What do they call it? The hand tools that will like break up tissue. I don't know what kind of issues it really causes.
Yeah.
But I haven't had enough to where it's like IT band syndrome or anything. But I definitely feel like mine are tight when I roll them. So I don't know.
So were you talking about in the squat?
Yeah, as being kind of a problem area. I did NASM as well, but I did several years ago, so I don't actually remember with their list of overactive muscles, but I believe that they do actually list it as a culprit for knee valgus, a tight IT band. But if you just do an online search of that, you're going to find so much debate on that issue. A lot of people will say, yeah, it's all good, roll it. I mean, if you haven't rolled it before, it's very painful. It's like excruciating a little bit. And other people will say, no, the IT band, it actually doesn't have the ability to really loosen up very much, and you want your IT band to be tight. So, I mean, I don't really have a definite answer on this.
Interesting. Yeah, because my instinct would be that if the IT band was tight, then valgus wouldn't be an issue. But then I'm just pulling that out of my arse because it feels like an abducting kind of, I'm not sure. I actually IT band is not something I've talked about with clients or anything for ages. That's got to be a weak spot for me. Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. You guys got any expertise on this? That's a great question.
Say that again.
Any expertise on this IT band with regards to squat? It's never come up for me, which feels like or at least I don't remember it. It's not come up with clients anyway. I'm sure it's come up on online, but I'm stumped. So. This is going to require some research. I've got a Google search going already. Yeah, I might have to
do some research myself and try to see. But nice. Yeah, I mean, people really debate it quite a bit online for sure. So it's I don't know that any particular client might come into a session questioning that or not, but.
Yeah, that would have to be a scenario where I would say, look, I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be able to find good answers for you. But in terms of right now, I don't have them. So they'd have to either trust me that I'm being truthful on that, which I think I am, in terms of being able to find the good answers. But yeah, I'm not sure as it relates to squat. I'm not sure.
So it says. It occurs when the connective tissue extending from the pelvic bone to the shin bone becomes so tight that it rubs against the thigh bone, especially in runners, distance runners. I wonder if that has anything to do with not properly warming up, or I don't know, overuse. But if a connective tissue is the issue, a lot of times I feel like people are stretching it without warming it up. When you stretch a muscle without warming it up, you're stretching the connective tissue, not the muscle.
Yeah. So I don't even know how stretching IT bands would work.
I mean, there is
I'm sure
an
you
IT
can.
band
I'm sure you can.
stretch. I mean, I don't think it's very effective. So, you know, I think rolling is the better way to go about that.
Yeah.
But for me personally, in my training, the IT band is not an area that I feel to be problematic. But I don't, you know, I'm not like a long distance runner or something like that. So it might be something that comes up more among your runners.
Yeah, it's not come up for me. I'm definitely going to do some research on that.
Cool.
Has anybody ever dealt with proximal hamstring tendinopathy?
I'm sure I have in physio. I'm sure I've done rehab on it, but no, not recently anyway.
I see the eyebrows raised. That was me too. I'm still not quite sure. I've dealt with a client for 3 years, coming up on 3 years, with this issue, who likes to run marathons and is in his 60s, isn't like the best in shape. He's like 6'6", 215 pounds. But what proximal hamstring tendinopathy, so the connective tissue between the glute and the hamstring up at the top is diseased, and they don't really know what causes this or why it happens. But he'll get pain in his sit bone if he's sitting for too long, or if he runs for too long. So I'm not going to get into everything because there's a lot to do with rehabbing it, but I've been working with a physical therapist for the past 3 years with this guy, and I just was wondering if anybody's had any experience with it. It's kind of a crazy injury.
Yeah, I certainly haven't recently. I will have in physio, but it would have been mainly on the like doing the rehab with them. So yeah, I don't have anything particularly enlightening on the top of my head for that. I could barely even remember like what a tendinopathy was, which is bad.
Happy disease.
Mm.
Do we have anything else about the squat that anybody wants to talk about or discuss?
Let me just see if I've got any more of those bullet points. Yeah, so look diagonally down, neck follows spine. What do you guys think about this? Initiate movement, or sorry, tell the client to initiate the movement by moving their hamstrings back, not their glutes. So I remember hearing this one ages ago, and people, I think it's in Starting Strength, if you guys know that book, where I could be wrong there of where this source is, but he's like, say to move your hamstrings back, not the glutes, because it makes, I guess, more likely to, I'm not even actually sure. What do you guys think?
Sorry, guys, I got to head up. I hope to join you all again next time. Thanks for having me today.
Nice one, Dan. Good to meet you.
I just tried it, Freddie, and I have no idea.
Yeah. So I think the idea was that it will result in less, it will result in less like posterior tilt or like back rounding. But yeah, that was a random one. That's just a random tidbit. And then yeah avoid.
As well, but I tried out as well, but couldn't work out how to move my hamstrings back without moving my glutes back.
No, so yeah. So you definitely move them both back, but I think it's the idea that if you're focusing on the hamstrings, you're less likely to round back under.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, super niche, and potentially like not even that useful. And then so I've got spread the floor / screw your feet into the ground to produce torque. So to produce.
I prefer screw your feet rather than just spreading the floor, because that can just lead them pushing their knees directly outwards. Whereas with the screwing, you get much more of that external torque.
Yes.
Which it feels like it keeps them a lot more braced on the way down and the way back up.
Yeah. I think one of the problems, I agree, and one of the problems is people overdoing both those cues. I think it's kind of like a sweet spot. It's not like you max it out. That's my opinion on it. And then what was the other one? Avoid valgus knee. Local. What do I mean there? Oh, avoid. I said avoid local flexion / extension in spine. So just like have a neutral spine, basically. And then my last thing was, what are people's thoughts on butt wink? So I'm glad we covered that.
If you guys don't mind, I actually have a few questions myself.
Yeah, man. Far away.
It's not about the actual it's a bit off topic from squatting. Not even off topic from squatting. It's more about being a PT in general. Give me a second. I was cooking. All right. So, one of the more main questions that I've faced, because I've been lurking in the subreddit, for those of you who are, I'd assume everyone in here knows of it.
Yeah.
Right. But I've been lurking in the subreddit for a while, and I was really wondering, like, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of an issue is getting clients for you guys?
Yeah, so I think it's fair to say that for most personal trainers, I mean, this will depend on if you work in like a big box gym, like a big brand gym, or not, and it will depend on how much like leverage the other people have to get you clients, or whether they already give you clients or what have you. But for most people, I would say it is the bottleneck. So for people starting out with training, I encourage people to get their marketing sorted out and to have a plan with marketing, because it can absolutely ruin people. And I'd say a lot of personal trainers, including me, it's definitely the bottleneck. Yeah. If that answers the question at all and isn't really, really negative, but it's definitely true in a lot of cases. What do you guys think?
Your personality plays a lot to it. If you're going to start out in a big box gym and you have a great personality and you go and talk to everyone, they're eventually going to come to you with questions, and that's the best place to market yourself. I can't speak for everyone, but that's how I built up a clientele and was able to go independent. But getting out there as well, like the first meeting that we had here, we talked about social media and how we boost our social media or what to talk about. I don't want to say, I hate saying this, but fake it till you make it. You don't want to sound like you're not busy or that you're too avid to train just anybody or just work with anybody.
Yeah.
And I made that mistake too much in the beginning because I was very excited about it. I loved it. And that's kind of why we all get into it. We're really excited about it, but you want to seem like you're knowledgeable and that you're not trying to give out too much information.
Yeah, I would actually, yeah, Brian, I think that's a great question. And again, I've worked as a personal trainer yet, but I will say there's a lot of bad advice about how to get personal training clients on Reddit. So there was actually a post. I actually screenshotted it and I was going to share it with you guys, but I don't want to dig around and find it right now. Somebody asked, I think, this exact question on the Our Personal Training subreddit, and they're like, "Hey, I'm just starting out. How do I get clients?" And oh my God, I was like, and again, so Brian, I work in recruiting. So I've had some pretty extensive sales and marketing training. And pretty much almost every piece of advice I saw on this poor Redditor's post was like the exact opposite of what maybe it's like the old school traditional way but like what this one guy, or I don't know if it's a guy or a girl, but this one person specifically, they were like, okay, here's how you do it, step by step. Step 1, go up to someone while they're working out. And I'm like, first of all, no, leave them alone. They're working out. 2, they're like, if they say they're not interested, keep pushing. Ask them more questions. I'm like, oh my God, this is how you're gonna get like banned from the gym. Like, leave people alone.
I would say though, don't. I completely agree, but don't scare Brian or anybody else. In terms of like, because obviously you can really get in your head, and you do want to talk to a lot of people. So don't let it put you off.
I'm not gonna lie. I tend to shy towards that sort of. I'm a very jovial person, very friendly, very, very kind, right?
Nice, yeah.
So when I'm working out just for myself, not even to show one of my friends a good workout, to target a specific muscle or anything like that. When I'm working out by myself, if I see a guy struggling, I'll be like, hey, you want me to spot you? Or if I see them struggling with form or something, I'll be like, you should actually probably shift it towards this instead of trying to do it this way. You get what I'm saying?
But I assume, yeah, but you'll read into the situation, and if they're like, go away, you'll be like, yep. I assume.
Yeah, usually.
So yeah, it's like a balance, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Oh, go ahead, Kate.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying, and I think there are a lot of social clues you can pick up on there. Like if they're not making eye contact and listening to music, like leave them alone. If they're like really looking at you and smiley and say hi, like then you can kind of like have that back and forth.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's situation dependent. Yeah.
I think in terms of sales and marketing, there's definitely a big difference between like cold calling and, actually, presenting, or, when someone actually approaches you and asks about personal training services. But that's actually something that, we can talk about in future meetings. If you want me to talk, if we want to practice like reflective listening and, actually how to handle like when somebody actually reaches out to you and is interested in your services, how to basically close that sale instead of accidentally pushing them away. Because it's very it's very nuanced, and there's a lot that you can do to sort of improve your consults basically. If you guys do free consults, as opposed to sort of information vomiting all over them and then they disappear on you and never hire you. But yeah, I don't know. So so Brian, basically be careful about the advice about how to get clients on Reddit, because some of it is just, some of it's a little scary.
I'll keep that.
Yeah, I think Reddit can be super dangerous because sometimes people start voting up a post, and then everybody sees a post that's voted up, so they think it must be true, so they vote it up some more. It's like a hive mind mentality. I think Reddit's fucking awesome, but I think that is something you've got to bear in mind.
Lindsay, you said something when we were talking about social media, about people want to be like you, train like you, eat like you. Expand on that, because I think that's a good point to his question.
Yeah, so the psychology, so, it's most people's buying processes, whether you're buying a car or personal training services or whatever, emotion is a really big part of the buying process and the decision-making process, whether or not you recognize it or not, or you're thinking about it, it is. And especially when people are looking for something like personal training, people, and this is actually true in a lot of industries, or most industries, people want to buy from people who they like and people who are like them. So people may be intrigued by you as a personal trainer because they see something about your personality or the way that you train or the way that you present yourself that either is something that they feel is like themselves, or something that they aspire to be. So that's why, especially with using social media, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, a lot of trainers will say like, well, I don't know what to post on social media. I'm boring, like, what do I do? And it's like, you know what, just post your daily life, post your workout routines, post what you're eating, because you'd be so surprised, especially people who are looking to make like a big transformation in their life, fitness wise or health wise, nutrition. It doesn't necessarily have to be weight loss. A lot of it usually is weight loss. But a lot of people are starting from, square one. they don't know. They don't know about calorie counting. They don't know about macros. They don't know about, I mean, you just be amazed at, about the information we take for granted because we've just been around it for so long that we're just like, well, yeah, calories in, calories out. Sure. Like everyone knows that. No, they don't. They really don't. Or they don't know, like, protein, higher protein diets are better for fat loss and things like that. And, they're very curious whether they'll actually admit it to you or not. They do want to know, like, okay, somebody who is fit, somebody who does seem to have control of their health and fitness, what do they eat on a regular basis? Because, I think a lot of people assume that we just eat nothing but salads and protein shakes all day. And that's not true.
Yeah, I eat rice sometimes too.
Yeah, or
People are normally absolutely shocked when I tell them how much fat I eat.
Yeah.
So these things, whether they're boring to us, but people, they want to know about that stuff. And even if, your workout is way too advanced for them, just seeing how, showing like how you work out, maybe they think, well, one day I want to work out like that. So I want to hire Brian because Brian knows what he's doing. So he can teach me how to eventually get to that level. Because or, another thing I've been trying to use for my social media too is anytime somebody asks me a question, because I'm sure as trainers, you guys get friends and family ask you questions a lot, or other coworkers ask you questions. I've started writing those questions down so that I can make a social media post about it later.
That's a great idea.
Because, like I said, I think I said 2 weeks ago, I had a friend message me terrified that her heart rate was going into the 150s while she was, going on an indoor cycling bike, and that she thought her heart was going to explode if her heart rate went to 150s and into the 150 range. And I'm like, no, that's okay. Okay. So, or like I said, or it's, it's February now, but, a lot of people in the new year, they think new year, new me. So I want to work out and get fit. So I have to work out 2 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's like, please don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. Like that's way too much exercise, so make a post about proper rest days and how much exercise you actually need, which is significantly less than most people think. A lot of people think, again, they look at us, they think, well, they're in control of their health and their bodies, so they must spend hours in the gym every single day to look like that. And it's like, no, we don't. So that's also a great way to, specifically with personal training services, give away a lot of information on social media for free to gain people's trust.
I think sorry, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say that because then they will come to see you as a reliable source of knowledge. And then, give the information out for free, basically, and then they hire you for the accountability and support.
And the personalization,
Right.
Yeah. I think I think maybe you even said it or alluding to, but what I really loved was like actually just posting stuff that's about you. Like, it's funny to think that actually the thing that sold the client on you might be that you go surfing, and they're like, that's cool, I go surfing. And you think it's just some pointless shit on your Instagram or whatever, but actually that could be the thing that sells people. So I mean, you don't have to post about like every time you like watch the TV program, but things like that makes you human and makes you vulnerable, and I think can be really positive. And it's not to say just do it with everything, but it's like don't rule it out. Like if you're thinking, oh, I don't have that much content, you do. It just depends on what you think is valuable. And like you're saying, Lindsay, like what's actually valuable might not be what you think is valuable. And it may not be that small of a box. Yeah, like you were saying.
A friend of mine actually Venmo'd me $10 the other day because I didn't tell her to. I was going to give her the information for free, but she wanted recommendations on high protein lunches that can be eaten cold. Because of her work situation, she didn't have access to a microwave. And so 5 days a week, she was eating cold lunches. And I'm just like, oh, well, and took me 30 seconds. I just wrote her out a list of high protein, nutrient dense foods she could eat, on the go, that's cold, doesn't need to be reheated. And she's like, wow, I didn't even think about that. Oh, that helps me so much here. And just Venmo'd me $10. And I'm like,
oh, nice.
It's like, cause she's like, oh, well, I don't want you to work for free. I'll pay you for your knowledge. But it's like, so yeah, even little things like that. People want to know stuff like that.
Now, see, here's where I kind of need a differentiation or explanation, whatever you want to call it. Right? There's a Instagram page I actually follow. It's at Physique, if I remember correctly. It's like I'll see if I can find it, but he does a lot of long form posts on his Instagram, but he'll also push like blog posts for a more in-depth kind of explanation towards that. Do you find that just doing long form posts on Instagram is that's just one social media outlet, obviously, but do you find that is better than a blog post, or what's your thoughts on that?
My concern would be that, so I haven't done almost any long form on Instagram. My concern would be people's attention span is really short, but the people who really liked you would go and read the blog or read the long post. But yeah, I think it depends on how invested in you your audience is, right? That's what I think. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I would point you more towards do short stuff on Instagram, because yeah, when people are on Instagram, they're usually scrolling. You know, I mean, why is TikTok so popular? Because the videos are no longer than 60 seconds. You know, you're only committing to a maximum of 60 seconds at a time. You know, Instagram, I feel like, especially when I follow people and their stories every day, there's literally like 50 things in their stories every single day. I'm just like, oh God, this is an investment of my time to go through this person's content today. Like, I don't have time for this. So no, I mean, you're going to find your style though. So my style may not be your style. I don't know what your target demographic is. So figure out who you're targeting. And if you feel like they're looking for long form content on Instagram, go for it. But what I see most people do is post the shorter stuff on Instagram and then link to, like, so let's say they want to talk about how to figure out your calories for fat loss. So they'll have a short 10 to 20 second little story about, you know, hey, I've been getting a lot of people ask about counting, you know, how to figure out or calculate your calories for fat loss. You know what? I have a great video about that. Here's, you know, swipe up to watch my YouTube video that I talked all about how to calculate your calories for fat loss. Or, hey, I wrote a great blog about this. I'm going to link it here, you know, so click on this to read my blog to learn more about counting calories, you know, or figuring out your calories for fat loss, or how to perfect your bicep curl, or, you know, insert topic here. I see people use Instagram more for that, but yeah, it all depends on what your target demographic is into.
I mean, I've seen people do it where the first, so it's like an Instagram video, the first second of the Instagram video is like the highlight of the video, and it shows what it's going to be about. So you've got the people who've got the 1 second attention span, who are really going past, you've shown them the main thing. Then the rest of it is like, you know, a 30-second video. So you've got you've got more information, and it includes that little special 1 second segment that was the best bit. And then they've also got a link to the really long form, maybe YouTube video. So I think that is a way where you can nail everything in one. So you've got the people with like 0 attention span that you get in that first second. And then you've got the people who are ride or die. They'll go to your YouTube, you know.
But yeah, I would say like the fastest, easiest way to get that longer form content out there without a ton of equipment is blogs.
Yeah. Or a blog. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, you know, the YouTube, you know, to get good YouTube content, unfortunately, you do tend to need a slightly higher quality camera. You're going to need a better quality. I mean, in order for, you know, to have it be more professional, you're going to need more equipment, which is more of an investment financially. You have to train yourself on how to learn it. Which if that's what you want to do, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just, if you want to get started, there's nothing wrong with just having, you know, some nice blog posts that you can easily point back to. And again, with blog posts, I think of simple questions, simple topics that a lot of people have questions about, and just answer those in blog posts, and you're going to get a lot of content really quickly, just to be able to link back to it whenever you need it.